Hello and welcome. I'm Kim Croker of Stampin' with Kim Arlene. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from the west coast of Canada. Here is my blog address. All of my links are below. Today I am going to show you a card that I made with Waves of Inspiration, the dies, and the stamp set. So this is the card here. I used our new Holographic Trio paper, which makes it quite pretty. Anyway, here's the stamp set that I'm using. This is the Stampin' Up! Stamp set, Waves of Inspiration. And I am also using the Waves dies. These are the dies here. There are quite a few of them. There's a range from cutting out the wave and the pelican. There's clouds, labels. So let's get started with that. Please give me a thumbs up if you are enjoying my videos, and be sure to subscribe for different card making techniques and inspiration. And all of my links are below. Let's get started. All right. I am going to get started here with a piece of basic white cardstock that is 5 1/8 inches wide and 3 7/8 inches tall. I have on it a post-it note that has been stamped with, not stamped, sorry, cut out with a 1-inch punch. We have masking paper as well, and it works very well. Unfortunately, I just can't find mine right now, so I've got that. And I'm going to stamp this with Starry Sky ink. Now, this is a really large stamp, so I'm going to take my ink pad and stamp it onto the stamp itself. And when I stamp this, I want to try and get it so that I don't have any blank space underneath the stamp. So I'm going to try and make sure that my paper is up a little bit and that I'm covering it from side to side and covering that little bit of the bottom. If I don't get it, I'll just trim it. There we go. Okay, that worked very well. And I'm just going to clean that off a little bit and tuck it out of the way. Now I've got some inks for my blending brushes. I'm going to start with Coastal Cabana, and I'm going to add some Coastal Cabana to the wave itself. And then I'll be doing the sky. Now, when you are using blending brushes, it really depends on how inky your ink pad is. This one, as you can see, is fairly dry. But if you have one that is quite inky, then be sure to tap it onto your paper before you get started on your adding your ink, so that you don't get a big blob. So I'm just going to color some of this into the background of the wave, that is. Okay, so that is finished. And then I'm going to get some balmy blue for the sky. I'm just going to brush this out a little bit. You can also take it onto your stamping chamois, and then that will clean some of that excess color off. I do wash them out too when I'm finished with them. All right, so I want to get the sky in balmy blue, and I put my post-it note to sort of represent a sun. This one's not very inky either. It looks like it's time to be re-inking my ink pads. It's a little slower when you've got a dry ink pad, I'll tell you. And of course, this is quite fine to go over top of the wave as well. I'll add a little bit more ink to the corners and the sides, edges. Now I do want a subtle effect with the sky, otherwise I really would have re-inked my ink pad. It shouldn't take quite this long. And the next thing I'm going to do is to remove that masking. Sometimes that's a little tricky. This is one of those super sticky full sheet Post-it notes, so it's stuck down everywhere. All right, so you can see that is quite white, and you could leave it white like that. I'll bring this up so you can see the differences in the color. You could leave it like that. You can't really see that. Oh, there you go. It's a bit of a lag, so I'm not stopping at the right time. And my yellow is actually much inkier than the other two, so I'm going to tap it off on the paper, and then I just want a little hint of the yellow in here. And I don't want to get it too much onto the sky, otherwise I'm going to get green, which would not work so well. You can also use a piece of cardstock with a hole in it for this part, not for the part before that. All right, so that's finished. And I'm going to add on some of the waves dies, these two here, with new paper that we have from our annual catalog. And I'm just going to cut out these two dies from the waves dies, and I'm going to cut it out with two different Holographic Trio 12 by 12 specialty papers. This is a pretty awesome paper. It looks totally different on camera than it does in real life. It does not have all those spots of color. I think that's from my light. There is this piece, which is Berry Burst and Starry Sky. Sorry, that does not look like what it looks like at all. You'll have to look at this one online. And then there is a silver one, which is pretty much just like a shiny silver foil. And then there's another silver one that's a little bit blotchier. So, whoa. All right, I don't need to show those on camera. They look horrible, but they're really pretty. On the back of them, I'm going to put some of our adhesive sheets so that I don't have to use glue when I'm attaching them to my card. So I'm going to put this over to the side. And the size of the paper that I'm using is 5.5 by 2.5. And I'm using one of the Starry Sky part at the top of that paper. It's Starry Sky at the top and then Berry Burst at the bottom. It's really quite lovely. All right, and I'm going to get these out of the way and bring up my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Now you'll notice that I've cut this sort of around the paper. And the reason I've done that is that often when you're using foil, the foil around it will get marked up by the plates. So if you want to use the paper around it, it's a good idea to cut out pretty much what you need. And because this is fairly intricate, I'm going to run it back through. Now, the nice thing about using the adhesive sheets is usually when you separate them from the die, it comes out without the extra pieces. We'll see if that happens. Sometimes it's a little hard to see the separation. And I did do this in a few pieces on the back, so it's going to be a little challenging. A stylus or a take your pick tool will make that easier to separate. Now, most of my pieces came home, but not all of them. I've spent some time debating which of these pieces goes on top, and I've decided it probably doesn't really matter. It's whatever you like. I thought because waves are more blue than they are silver, that I'd put the blue one on the top. Okay. There's one. So I'm going to take this and just attach it to the bottom of the wave, hoping to line it up. Okay, and I may have to trim that a tiny bit at the edge. It's a little bit longer than my piece. I think it might have been faster just to use glue. I'm just not very tidy with glue. All right, I'm going to put this over top. Try and line it up with the corners again. For a fine tip glue pen, I think there was a little part there that I did not get the adhesive, so I'm just going to put this on this way. Now, if you live in Canada and currently don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to help you out. I've got shopping links at the bottom of my video. This is a very handy thing to have. It is important that you close the jar and put the pin in when you're finished with it. All right, so there's what this looks like. It does look really nice without the foil, but it kind of adds a little bit of shimmer if that is what you like. And I am going to trim this end just a little bit. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is to get the sentiment. And for the sentiment, you'll need a piece of cardstock about 3.5 inches long and about 1 inch tall. I'm making a thank you card, and there's not really a thank you card with the Waves of Inspiration set. So I am using the thank you from Earth and Textures. And I will be using Starry Sky for the sentiment as well. And I'll be cutting it out with the little label die. There are 2 label dies with this Waves die set, which is very nice. And I'm using the Artist Low Tack tape just to hold that die in position when I put it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Sorry for the wobbling. And then I'm going to use some of the 3/8 Starry Sky, 1/8 metallic woven ribbon, and I need about 4 inches of that. I usually try to be a little bit tighter. I seem to have all sorts of bits on my desk. All right, so about 4 inches of that. And I'm just going to fold that in half and put the loop through the left-hand edge of the label and pull my loose ends through there. Now this ribbon frays very easily, which is quite lovely if that's what you want it to do. If you just kind of leave it, it doesn't. And I'm just going to cut those off at an angle. And put some mini dimensionals on the back of that. Oops. I'm going to trim that off. just do that with scissors. Okay. And I'm going to put that near the top right edge. I'm going to put it right over at the edge and about 1/4 of an inch down from the top. And then I'm going to get out gray, basic gray cardstock. And I just need a piece about 1.5 inches by 1 inch of that, and about a 3-inch by 1-inch piece of vellum. So I've got the bird's dies, which I'm going to put on the basic gray. And I've got 2 cloud dies that I'm going to cut out with the vellum. Something I find handy, but obviously have not really used that much today, is to put my dies back onto one of the photo magnet sheets that I got from the dollar store. It helps me to find them a little later on. Okay, I think those birds are going to need to be popped out. Oh, one is out. And the 2 clouds. Those back on here. Okay, now with the clouds, what I'm going to use is our Stampin' Seal Plus. The Stampin' Seal Plus is sort of a more heavy-duty adhesive, and it is actually made up of a bunch of teeny tiny little rectangles of glue. I have found that it works fairly well for vellum. I don't want to put it across the whole thing, but I want to get one triangle, not triangle, rectangle on there, and I don't think you can see that. But it does quite work well with vellum. Another thing that you can do is to take a little sponge piece and put some liquid glue, the multi-purpose liquid white glue, on a silicone mat, and just make a little blob of it on your silicone mat, and then dip a sponge in it, and that brushing it lightly on the back of the vellum often does not show very much. So I'm going to put our clouds here. I wanted them to be a little bit subtle, and I thought that the vellum would work well for that. Now, when you use the Seal Plus, you do want to press it down fairly well. If you don't, it does show a little bit. So we've got that, and then I'm going to put a little bit of that fine liquid glue, fine tip glue pen, on the back of the birds. You can also use the glue dot. I will often fold a glue dot or roll a glue dot with a stylus. If you want to fold it, what I do is I just take the wax papery kind of stuff that's in there and fold it in half. So I've got some of that wax paper above and below the glue dot, and then I take my scissors and cut it in half because these birds are quite tiny. That there. Ah, a little bit of glue there that I'll take off with my adhesive eraser. And the next thing that we're going to do, oops, I've got to get this cap back on. Is to get a piece of Starry Sky cardstock that is 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. And I'm just going to put some glue on the back of this and add it to that as a mat. And then I've got a regular sized card base, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 scored at 4 1/4. And I'm just going to add that on top of that. Try not to press too much on the blending brush ink because my fingers are a little bit gluey at this point. All right, there we go. There's the card. Holographic paper. You can see a little bit better in this example than looking at a whole sheet at once. It's quite pretty and it really zhuzhes up your card. My mom used to always say that. I'm pretty sure it's not really a word, but hopefully you know what I mean. Okay. So I hope that you enjoyed that card. If you have this bundle, please be sure to give it a try. If you don't have this one and you have something similar, the techniques, of course, would work with any stamp set. Here is a different version, slightly different. This one just does not have that extra layer. So I'll put those there so that you can compare. Again, there is my blog address, but all of my links are below. And also below there is a link to a free tutorial and also links to my blogs and everything. If you live in Canada and presently don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to help you out. There are shopping links below. And please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to click on the bell so that you receive notifications. And join me for future card making videos, lots of inspiration, tips and tricks, and so on. I do want to briefly mention that Stampin' Up! Has right now until the end of August 2023, all of our all-inclusive kits collection are on sale up to 30% off. I think there's only one that maybe isn't on sale. These are great because they have everything that you need except scissors. That's all you have to supply. There's blocks and stamp sets in most of them, a little mini ink pad, and there's all sorts of different types of kits. There are mostly card making kits, which are the ones that I enjoy, but there are also home decor. There's little gift bags, gift boxes. There are some Christmas tags there as well, card making Christmas kits. So a really good selection. The link is below. Be sure to check that out as well. Thank you again for joining me, and be sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Oh, I also have a stamp camp coming up it's a multi-demonstrator stamp camp. It will be on a new pardon me, it'll be on a new Christmas bundle that is in our soon to be released September to December mini catalog. So check back with that, sign up for my newsletter, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.